Welcome. I would like to share some musings about the word agile and how we are using it, how we have been using it, how I perceive it being used, and sometimes abused. So there's this thing we call agile software development. It's fairly well defined. There's this manifesto where certain practices, certain principles, and certain value pairs are expressed. And we would expect an agile software development team to do something like XP to regularly improve how they work, deliver stuff that is valuable. And then there's this thing called agile organization and another thing called agile leadership. Let's look at the agile organization. What is that? What does it mean that we have an agile organization? It doesn't mean anything. That's the funny thing. An agile organization is like a humane organization, a learning organization, and could take lots of other words that people typically aspire to, that nobody will reject. They're just entirely positive, which means they don't mean anything if you say, my organization is going to be or should be learning. Yep. Do we want to be dumb? But then a learning organization, if that's what we focus everything around, is also not a knowing organization, because learning means unknowing. An agile organization that is changing everywhere, everything, experimenting with everything, that's a dumb idea, actually. I recently heard the quote that an agile organization is an organization where they know where to be agile and where not to be. Yes, an earlier me would have just be, oh, cool. That sounds very philosophical and I like it. But it just erodes the term. If we have a term that makes a good distinction between one way of software development and other ways of software development, and then we use it for something else, and there it doesn't have that distinctive quality. A word that doesn't serve as a distinction from something else is not a useful word. Agile software development, in contrast to software engineering, is a useful distinction. And independent of the question, if one or the other may or may not be more appropriate for whatever you're doing, those are two things, like left, right, up, down, useful distinctions. Agile versus waterfall, or agile versus software engineering, etc. And I'm not going there now. This is not about the details of the definition of agile. But when you apply agile to something broader, like an organization is built around paradoxes. Some things need to stay the same, some things need to change. Some things need to change so that other things can stay the same. So focusing on agile as in we are questioning and experimenting with everything? No, right? No organization wants agile salaries. We'll experiment a little bit. How much people are willing to work for? No. Agile bookkeeping? Sometimes we do our bookkeeping according to the rules, and sometimes no, you want that to be solid, repeatable, reliable. A friend of mine has given me a great definition last year. Agile is a way of working that prioritizes learning at the cost of efficiency. And I love that definition because it allows me to choose for which pieces of work this preference for learning, this primacy of learning is useful, for how long, in which context, etc., and where it isn't. And in some contexts, it isn't. Some things need to be efficient. I have this phone. Some of you have a phone like that. I assume that the development of this phone was, maybe is, done in some agile way. They're experimenting, they're building features, they're doing that with a flexible backlog, new ideas are coming in, etc., etc. The production of this phone is very probably not agile. It's very probably done in a highly reliable, highly specified, highly standardized way, so that everybody who pays good money for this thing can expect to have the same level of quality in production. And they want to be efficient because they want to make money. They don't want variation. They want quality. And that agile and quality is not a contradiction, but this kind of production quality, little variation, maybe. So I'm wondering if we are using agile in a way, we as a community of agile coaches, trainers, consultants, people who have these conversations around how we want to change the world of work, improve the world of work. If we are applying terms that are not useful distinction in the context where we use them, then we shouldn't use those terms for these contexts. So my current choice is I use Agile for software development method, for a way of working that works outside of software too. I do not use the word for organizations. Mostly. I have met among the hundreds of organizations I've seen in the last 20 odd years, I've seen some organizations who had chosen a niche, market niche, a context, a way of operating where most of the stuff they did required learning all the time. Most organizations I know have pockets where learning is important and other pockets, bigger areas where stability is more important. I wouldn't call those agile organizations. And I would like to have a better name for the organizations that do most of the things in an agile way. Because again, I don't believe that agile organizations is a good term. It's not useful because it doesn't make good distinction. Because nobody wants to be in a rigid organization or in a boring organization, whatever the opposite might be. So there is going to be a similar post about agile leadership, but that's not this one because I want to keep these short. Quick word to regular listeners to this channel. I have not had a good track record of regularly posting stuff here. I intend to improve. I want to have small idea bites, sound bites like this one fairly often. I would love lots of comments, lots of questions. If you would like a discussion about this, I would much rather have longer conversations about questions like these instead of just sharing my own musings. But let's see where this goes. Thank you for listening. Have an awesome day.